Hey, this is Christopher McClure, and welcome to the Shift Show, where we bring spirit to bear on trending issues. And today's topic is collaboration. And you've probably heard me talk about collaboration um, over the course of the preceding um, episodes. Collaboration is very important um, to me, and I believe it's very important to the evolution of humanity and to the shifting of humanity, which this whole series is about. Um, the way it came up originally is I'll just explain this briefly. So I'm married, and my wife and I are both musicians, and we play music. We write songs together, and we have a band. We're called Radiant Deep. We have a drummer. Three-piece we are, bass, drums, and guitar. And I'm I'm much more of a seasoned musician than my wife. Although she's played music for most of her life, she hasn't done it in as dedicated and professional way. So I came into this meeting of our beings and our musical and creative expression, thinking that I knew generally I knew the way to do it, and that my way was a better way of doing it. And we're both pretty stubborn people, and so we would get into horrendous clashes. And her side of the argument was that regardless of how much experience I've had, and whether my idea, my way of doing it is the best way or not, she has her own way. And what it made me realize, this is a big life lesson, was that collaboration is that in order to, if you're going to work with other people, one other person, numerous other people, you have to collaborate. And collaboration is, it's an agreement, and I'm going to get into what it means in detail. But basically, you're agreeing to some extent, sacrificing you know, um, your own, inclinations in favor of a product that is a a general agreement. In other words, the um, the, the 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 song is not done until, if it's two people collaborating, until both people like the result. If I really liked the way a song was, and Sarah did did not, that's my wife, did not like the way it was, then that would not be done. The song would not be done. And if it was a band, if she and I really liked the song was, and our drummer Randy did not like, the way it was, then it would not be done. And it's so there's a sacrifice, and there's a patience involved in order to arrive at a collaborative result. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen um, as I usually do in these. I use the Enneagram, the ancient Enneagram, to sort of organize ideas, and hopefully to put them, to show the relationships between them, and to show the relationship of each idea to the whole. So collaboration. The first. These are some points, some precepts that my wife and I came up with over the weekend, uh, and I'll kind of explain where the context of that when we get to this point 8 here. Um, First precept of collaboration is yes and yes and is actually the first precept of improv uh, theater. Basically, the idea is that if somebody in an improvisational situation, somebody said, "Hey, my my yellow cat just is stuck up in the tree," um, or actually, let's say my pink cat is stuck up in the tree, and if I said, "Your pink cat, you don't have a pink cat," that's a yes, no, that's a no. That's basically a no. It's not a yes and. A yes and would be, my gosh, I didn't know you had a pink cat. That's horrible that it's up in the tree. Let's go get it down. That's a yes and. In other words, whatever somebody offers you, you go with it, and you modify it to your own liking by what you by what you supply by what you supplement with. Okay, so that's yes and. The second point here, called glad sacrifice, and this is a little bit what I was just talking about before doing this screen share, is that there is a, you have there's you in order to collaborate, you have to be willing to um, let go of your own inclinations to some extent, and to do it gladly, because you know that you know the power of collaboration. And what I mean by the power of collaboration is that, if you have a group of people trying to make something together, you're going to have, like, say there's 5 people, you're going to have 5 standards going into that product, that final product, as opposed to one standard. Or we probably all have multiple standards, but you're going to have 5 times that many standards. In other words, if that product actually embodies all the standards of all involved, you're going to have something that's probably really accessible to a lot of people. And that's so that's there you can trust. I can trust in collaboration, and because I can trust in collaboration, I know that that product is really valuable. Then I could be glad to sacrifice some of my inclinations to achieve that. And just a couple of examples that come to mind. You think of bands like the Beatles, or you think Pink Floyd, or you think of the Eagles. Where you have a lot of talented people who, in most cases, eventually split up because they didn't want to do the collaboration thing anymore, or they ran the course of the collaboration and then they were ready to, you know, sort of, nestle in their own inclinations. Um, However you want to look at it, the collaboration that happened, I think another example is Genesis. That the collaborations that came from those groups of people working together were, I can see it very clearly in the Beatles. I actually, my brother, who I consider a music aficionado, he doesn't play music, but he listens, and he has a vast, uh, catalog of music. He's been sending me Beatles stuff, and I can see the progression, as they later in their albums, when they started sort of splitting off, you could hear, oh, this is a McCartney song, this is a Lennon song, this is a Harrison song. Um, you can hear how, um, like with Lennon, was he had the like the lyric edge to the Beatles, that would really point to something deeper, and where McCartney had the music, the musicality, but when they split off, it's like there was a combination of them together that created a whole that was that it was whole. There was a holism in that. And when they started to split off, and you can start hearing, oh, that's a Lennon song. You could hear that missing part. Um, I think that's enough examples. All right. So you know what I was talking about earlier, of course, is that collaboration is it's like the first rung of the ladder of shifting. Um, Maybe it's not the first rung of the ladder. Maybe it's the second. Maybe tolerance is the first rung. But anyway, that's neither here or there. This what we're working for here is well, actually, let's just keep going. Okay, the fourth idea here is egalitarianism, which basically means, and it's this is kind of worked into what I've already talked about, the collaboration, is that we're all equal, and that we all have an important we're all an important piece of the puzzle, and that it's a principle that you have to stand in. If you throw this out, if you take this egalitarianism and you take it out, this is not going to. It's like it's going to crumble. It's going to collapse. This is a pillar that it's standing on, is egalitarianism. Um, Another point that my wife brought up is reciprocal memory. In this time when there is so much information, and there's so much interference with remembering that information, both chemical, electromagnetic. Um, the idea of what we're calling reciprocal memory, which is that there's certain things that I remember, and there's certain things that my wife remembers, and maybe by the two of us, honoring what we each remember and coming together with that, there's a remembering that's more whole and actually more uh, effective in the in terms of the result, the product, um, which is I don't want to I want to emphasize that the product is not just, say, a song. It's also, we are the product. We are the our process is the fruition, and who we become is the fruition, as well as writing a song, or creating an organization that can do good in the world. Okay, so tolerance, yeah, tolerance. I'll have to think. Maybe I'll come up with it as we're talking here, but tolerance is a very important part of collaboration. It's like, yeah, I think it would, I think actually, I think what I should do here is, so this is a works in progress, as you could see. I think tolerance actually goes over here, and shift goes here. It happens as a result. So tolerance, I don't think you can even collaborate without tolerance. So what I mean by tolerance is that there's a few precepts within tolerance, but basically tolerance is that you respect yourself and others, and you put that into practice so that people can coexist with different ideas about something. So the like the first precept of tolerance for me is I statements. I could say in that musical situation that I was referring to, I could say, so let me see. I could say something like, gee, I can't think of anything right now. But I could state my viewpoint, you know, I could say, this is I could say this is how it's done, right, in music, and there might be some truth in that. In other words, from my seasoned perspective, I've seen that this is the way that most people do it. But for me to say this is how it's done, that puts me in the position of an authority, and I'm not an authority. I haven't sat in on every music session that's happened, you know, in the last 50 years. Um, it's my opinion that this is how it's done. That's an I statement. And when people are, discussing and trying to collaborate to make statements, makes it a whole lot easier to communicate. Um, Sometimes, like the communication regarding a certain issue can get so heated that you need to do something like set a timer, right? And so then each person has, say, 5 minutes of uninterrupted time, okay? And during that time, the person who's speaking is using I statements, and the person who's listening is just listening. But the person who's listening is prepared to mirror back what that person said and to validate them. And validating is this is it's not a thing that people can get. Generally, people don't get this right away. They think that by if you just said um, so if I said if you just said this is the way I think it should be done, then me validating you would be me saying, well, when I see it from your perspective, I can understand how you would think that, right? Now, the thing is I'm not agreeing with you, right? I am not, I don't have to agree with you in order to validate you. All I have to do is put myself in your shoes and understand how you are arriving at this perspective. And that validation is so important because generally what happens is like somebody will say something and then somebody will counter it right away. And when somebody counter, if I just said, you know, I believe that this is the best way to do it, and you just countered it, I tend to have the feeling like I don't know that you heard me, you know. So it doing the validation, the mirroring and validation, really, like locks it in that the person feels heard, and then when the other person starts to talk, the other person's ready to listen because they were heard. Okay, so those are just like two basic precepts of tolerance. But you can't, it's like when you collaborate, you're going to get into there's issues that are going to be arising. You got to know how to handle them, and tolerance is basically a way for us to agree to disagree. And within when you really get down to talking, and you're talking in a in a tolerant way, sometimes you learn that you actually agree more than you even thought you agreed. Okay, so what this all adds up to is I'm not sure the order of these things here, but this is let's skip shift for now, and let's go to it ain't over till the whole band sings. You've heard the term it ain't over until the fat lady sings. This is like a variation on that. It's basically that when the whole band is in agreement about a song that they've written, then it's done. Then the song is completed, and that's kind of what I was referring to before. Okay, so now you're probably wondering about this word. It's kalki. Kalki is a word. It's a Hindu or Sanskrit word, and it what it refers to is the new avatar. Okay, so you've heard the word avatar, and you've heard it in the context of like you create it's like the your ideal client as an avatar, or you may have heard it through the movie Avatar. But avatar is actually a it's a Hindu, once again, a Hindu um, term that refers to a special person born at a particular point in time to model a new way of being human to the rest of humanity. Jesus was an avatar. Uh, Buddha, I think, is referred to as an avatar. And then there's lots of sort of lesser known people who you know um, came into the world with advanced abilities, in comparison to where most humanity is at. Um, so the thing about Kalki, right? Kalki is a new avatar. Kalki is not a person, or it's not one person. Kalki is actually all of us. In other words, we, the collective, is Kalki. We are the new avatar. And the context of the collaboration in these precepts came up for us because we were my wife and I were talking about how we could use this idea of that we're all avatars and that we're a couple, so we're a Kalki couple, and how that can sort of, you know, give us more purpose and more direction, more of a mission in terms of what we're doing. Um, but what this all, I'm wondering if shift should be up here, collective wholeness. Um, yeah, let's try that. An easy fix. We're going to put shift up here, put collective wholeness down here. Doesn't exactly fit. Once again, you can see that this is a works in progress. So collective wholeness, and then we have shift up here. So what this all adds up to is that we we shift. We shift individually and we shift collectively. And one of the main ways that we shift, well, actually, I'll say two ways. The two ways, the main way is that we collaborate. And in order to collaborate, we actually have to be tolerant. Um, so yeah, I think that's and we're working. When you go through this process of collaboration, your shadow comes up, and once again, that's why tolerance is important, so that you can actually function. You can communicate with some functionality, even though you're triggered, and that might mean, like if it's like if somebody gets really angry in the process, that might mean like taking a break and like having the two people go off and meditate or whatever it takes to assume, to own their own reality, and to um, refrain. So when they come back, they can refrain from projecting it on the other person, on the situation. But in this process, of collective wholeness, wholeness in terms of an individual, you have to become aware of your shadows in order to become whole. And the same is true, scale it up to the collective. We have to become aware of our shadows as a society, as a species, in order to achieve collective wholeness. And that collective wholeness is what enables us to become Kalki, the avatar of this new age that we're in. So I'm going to stop my share. And so once again, I'm Christopher McClure, and this is Welcome to the Shift Show, where we bring spirit to bear on trending issues. And the topic today has been collaboration. And you may have listened to this and thought, oh, but there's this other. He forgot to say this. Well, if I forgot to say something, if there's an important precept that I forgot to say, then go ahead and put it in the comments, and let's keep this discussion of collaboration going, and so that it becomes the fabric of our consciousness, and we can, become, a collaborative society that, that exercises tolerance, and we can become, reach our collective wholeness, and we can become Kalki, the collective avatar of the new age. Thanks for listening.